Call the January 30th meeting of the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education to order. Mr. Moody, can you please take roll call?
Yes, I will.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please take notice that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in the following manner. That written notice was sent from the office of the Secretary of the Board at 2:30 p.m. on January 5th, 2025. That said notice was sent via email to Maplewood and South Orange Township clerks and the editors of the News Record, Star Ledger, Tap into Soma, and the Village Green. Do I have a second? Second. With that, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session at 6:32 p.m. to discuss attorney-client matters, personnel negotiations, and HIBs. The length of the executive session is estimated to be 75 minutes, after which the public meeting... Sorry, hold on. Thank you. The length of the executive session is estimated to be 75 minutes, after which the public meeting of the board shall reconvene and proceed with business where formal action will be taken. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Meyer. All in favor? Okay, let's go. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'd like to make a motion to approve the prior board meeting minutes and executive session minutes from the regular meeting on December 19th, 2024. Do I have a second? Okay, thank you, Second Gable. All in favor, please raise your hand. Great, meetings have been approved. Next, we will have student update. Thank you.
First, I'd like to congratulate the photography students. Congratulations to senior Sam Rosenthal and sophomore Val Long from the photography club for being selected to participate in the Drexel University High School Photography Exhibition. This is the second year in a row that Columbia will be represented at this prestigious national event. And congratulations to Olive Witt for being accepted to the Future Image Makers Workshop at NYU Tisch, marking the second year that CHS has had student presence at the workshop. The photography club is stronger than it's ever been in terms of participation and talent, with Mr. Cutrona's help. I would also like to thank Delia Bolden, art teacher, Ms. McNally, who submitted 4 pieces of artwork to represent Delia Bolden at the Essex County YAM exhibit in Newark, and all these 4 pieces were accepted. So congratulations to kindergarten student Marigold S., 3rd grader Maya P., 5th grader Michael R., and Eliza K. from 1st grade. Eliza's artwork was also selected to represent Essex County in the state exhibition. And we want to recognize CHS junior Leo Panagopoulos for his Restrung nonprofit project, where he's been restoring acoustic guitars and donating them to veterans and VA hospitals. Inspired by his passion for music and respect for the military, Leo refurbishes his guitars and provides cases, tuners, and beginner materials to support veterans' recovery through music. We're also happy to announce that 2 Columbia High School students have been selected for the 2024 to 2025 All North Jersey Region Honors Ensembles. Senior Ryan Gaykowski will serve as the timpanist for the All North Jersey Region Orchestra, and junior Emmett Simon has earned a spot in the All North Jersey Symphonic Band on mallet percussion. Special thanks to their band instructor, Mr. Bauer, for his dedication to our students and music program. Miss Van Dornick, we want to congratulate her. She graduated from Eastern Illinois University in December with a Master of Arts in Music Education. And the Guild Script recently won a first place award for newspaper publications in the category of senior high school with an enrollment of 1,700 to 2,500. This club continues to be a wonderful collaborative experience for students while highlighting the abundance of talent at CHS. The art and literary groups edit, design, and market this very special publication that represents students' hard work. And finally, we want to recognize Columbia High School senior Lucas Mullen, a licensed drone pilot, for his outstanding collaboration with Mr. Draper and Mr. Valles from the district administrative offices. Lucas has been skillfully capturing stunning drone footage of school buildings in the district, a project that will serve as an invaluable resource for emergency responders in the future. Thank you for sharing your expertise and contributing to the safety and preparedness of our community.
I'd like to begin by highlighting the success of the Alumni Commons. This space has quickly become a valuable resource for our students who are utilizing it throughout the day for studying, lunch, and various activities. It provides a welcoming environment that fosters both academic focus and social interaction, making it an essential part of student life. Additionally, the Alumni Commons has played a significant role in encouraging students to consistently wear and carry their school ID cards, further enhancing school security and accountability. In speaking with Principal Sanchez, I learned that clubs without advisors will now be able to meet in the Alumni Commons. This is an excellent opportunity for student organizations that are still in search of advisors, as it ensures that they have a designated space to collaborate and continue their activities. Furthermore, Principal Sanchez shared some exciting news regarding the library that there will be a soft opening in about a month with a full reopening expected within the next 6 to 8 weeks. This is a major development for our school community as the library serves as an essential place for research, studying, and academic support. Beyond these improvements, we have also been working closely with Superintendent Bing to advocate for mandatory one-on-one meetings between sixth grade students and their guidance counselors. We strongly believe that early exposure to these resources, starting in the middle schools, will encourage students to make use of their counselors throughout their academic journey. This initiative aims to provide students with more personalized academic and career guidance, ensuring that they feel supported and prepared for the transition into high school and beyond. Additionally, we are in the process of developing a student survey that will be distributed to the student body in the near future. The goal of this survey is to gather feedback on student concerns, identify areas where the school can improve, and ensure that student voices are heard in shaping the school environment. We believe that this will be an important step in fostering open communication between students and administration while addressing key issues that impact student life.
Does anyone have any questions? Good job. Okay, next. Superintendent update?
Thank you, gentlemen. Before I yield the floor to Dr. Gilbert, we want to highlight some really nice things that are happening around the district. Last Sunday, on the 26th, we had our Columbia High School Chinese students attended the Soma Lunar Fest. They performed songs and dances. They also did a ribbon dance and a dragon dance. CBS was there and filmed the event, interviewed the teacher, interviewed some of our students. I believe we have a little clip in regards to what the students were doing and a piece of the interview.
It's 11 now. Time for a check on your forecast. John Elliott is live in Maplewood with your first alert forecast and really exciting information this morning. Hey, John.
Well, and we're in this very historic setting. I just love this. This is the Woodland. This was built in 1930 for the Maplewood Women's Club, and now it is just obviously used Maplewood and South Orange for performances and gatherings like the Lunar Fest, which get underway today at noon. So it's just beautiful to be here. Right now, though, let's get you in your historic home ready to head out on your Sunday. So yesterday was better. It was still cold. We did a bit. Highs around the area yesterday were just in the upper 20s through parts of the Hudson Valley. And yes, you did have a little bit of snow. And then Wednesday, a nice big bump. So we're coming back. Oh, this is fascinating. I'm just going to let Vince tell the story. I'm joined now by Mike Chi. No, you're Mike. Choi. No, yeah, and she's doing Tai Chi, right? That's right. So what, a Tai Chi is this ancient Chinese, it's like a dance, but isn't it a martial art?
I believe so, yeah. And an exercise in some ways, too.
And they say it's extremely relaxing. Well, this is fascinating. I'm enjoying this. All right, so Mike, kind enough to join us. You're with Soma. What is Soma?
So Soma Cross Cultural Works is the local community organization that actually sponsors Lunar Fest. They do all sorts of fests all year. And like Habibi Fest, Middle Eastern, Diwali Fest, for Indian, sometimes Happy Fest for like the Polynesian area. So it's an organization that puts on cultural and educational events, really just to share the vast cultures that are around with the towns and with all the neighboring towns.
I got to tell you, I'm so enjoying watching this. And look at what we've done here. So during the course of your afternoon, we are going to be having different kinds of dance, not only the Tai Chi, but the dragon dance. Now, I was talking to your buddy Lonnie, 500 people showing up here today?
That's right, maybe more. We hope we can accommodate everybody.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be really interesting. And then it's also events for the kids. Wow, it's like, she's so interesting. This is like, I was just talking to her before, and she's been doing this. She studied in China. She studied here. She has students here. Wow, this is very cool. And now I feel guilty because I can't stretch and move that well. So, Mike, thank you for getting up early with us. We have events, and we're going to talk more about what's going on during the course of the festival all morning long. Wow, we timed that out perfectly, Mike.
Right.
That's great. Thank you for your help, and we'll have much more coming up from Maplewood. Right now, though, we'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
John, I was just telling Jenna off camera, my dad is 85 years old. We do Tai Chi via Zoom. Yeah, he's out in Ohio because Tai Chi, you're absolutely right, martial arts based, but extremely good for seniors and flexibility and movement. So there you go. Welcome back, 6:11 now. Time for a check on your forecast. John Elliott.
I've been hearing a lot about this young man, so I'm excited to finally meet him. He's mentioned in almost every meeting. I see Mr. Sanchez back there, so maybe Mr. Sanchez will say a few words. I know Lucas Mullen is here. You've heard his name. He's becoming a legend. He is the certified drone pilot for the district. You can see his work on the new website. He's done a lot of work with Stanley, our Director of Safety and Security. I know he's doing work with Mr. Sanchez, so I just wanted him to stand. I wanted to acknowledge all the great things that he's currently doing in the district. And we are not even close to being done. So my thanks, and my team's thanks, the school district's thanks. The stuff you're doing is amazing. The visuals are just wonderful. So you will be seeing much more of his work over the next few months. Thank you very much, sir. Much appreciated. Want to acknowledge 28 students who participated in the Model UN Conference at Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut. The Model UN Conference takes place at Yale University every year. This year it was between January 23rd and 26th, so I want to send kudos out to those students who took the trip. Do want to congratulate South Orange Middle School. First year that their students entered the New Jersey School Board Association Steam Tank Challenge, and they have 2 teams that qualified for the competition, 3 teams that qualified for the competition. So I'm looking forward to getting more news about their adventures. We had very little time to prep. I mean, the kids worked all week, all weekends, and just put together really some great projects. And we're looking forward to show off those projects at a board meeting over the next couple of months, but very, very proud of these students. Want to also acknowledge the Columbian, the CHS newspaper. The American Scholastic Press Association awarded the student newspaper first place in ranking at their annual review of student publications. So I did want to call out the Columbia and congratulate them. That is a great honor. Did want to also reach out to our SOMS staff, teachers, administration, everyone. They had an evacuation last week, and if you could draw it out on a board, it could have not gone any better. So big shout out to them and their staff for just being well prepared and ensuring our kids are safe and secure. I do want to read out a recent letter that we sent to parents in regards to support and assurance for our international families. Dear South Orange and Maplewood School District families, our district is steadfast in its commitment to providing a safe, supportive, and inclusive environment for every student and family we serve. We understand that questions about immigration status and related concerns can create uncertainty, and we want to assure you that we are here to support and protect your child's right to a high-quality education. New Jersey law and federal regulations clearly affirm that all children, regardless of immigration status, are entitled to a free public education. Our schools do not and will not engage in practices that could exclude any child from enrolling or participating in school instruction. Laws such as the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act also guarantee the privacy of your child's education records, ensuring that personal information is protected and shared only when required by law. Our district has established clear responses and courses of action to address any interaction with immigration enforcement that may occur on school grounds. We will prioritize student safety and protect the confidentiality of all families. Our educators are trained to provide emotional and practical support to students facing these real-world challenges to keep them secure and supported at school. These are challenging times for many, but we remain purposeful in providing a welcoming and equitable learning experience for all students in South Orange and Maplewood. And thank you. We do also want to shout out the over 105 individuals that applied for our initial year of our Budget Advisory Council. We accepted 30 individuals. Those notices will be going out tomorrow. Meetings will be starting in February. We'll be working with them around budget transparency, getting some advice around presentation and budget numbers, and really just talking about how the budget process works and where the district is going in these extremely trying times in regards to state aid budget. And we talked about that at the last meeting. Many districts went down to Trenton last month to talk about the state aid formula and the need for change. We have been on the short end of that formula now for quite some time. And there are some major changes that need to be done, and we need to continue to advocate for South Orange Maplewood School District to make sure we get the funding that we need to facilitate the excellent education we are currently giving to our students. So I will turn this over to our Assistant Superintendent of Access and Equity to give us a student enrollment update for high-level classes. I want to thank Dr. Gilbert for all his work on this. I know he's put in a lot of hours. He is a true equity warrior. I am very happy to call him a colleague and a friend, so I'll turn it over to Dr. Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Bean, to the Board of Education. Glad to be here. And I have my orders. This presentation has to be 20 minutes. I'm about to break a record, so if I talk too fast, please let me know, and I'm gonna set my timer here. Okay, I know you will. I know you will, Madam President. And we will begin now. So this presentation is going to do a couple of things. One is going to update you all in the public, the board and the public, on our current enrollment numbers through our III, or Intentional Integration Initiative. And then we're gonna go through the student enrollment in advanced courses. Now, I will let you know that this presentation in its entirety will be placed on our website, so you'll be able to go through each and every slide. I think I finished at 125 slides. Have no fear, we will not go over 125 slides presently right now. Got a new setup here. Hold on, wait, give me a few minutes here. Figure this out. Yeah, I'm gonna need some help here because it's not. I might need to get a clicker. Yeah.
Sorry, everyone.
Jonathan, you're going to have to click.
Yep. Okay, well, that first slide, there we go. All right, so this is the timeline for our, am I controlling this or are you all controlling it from the back? I can't hear you. Thank you. Okay. This is just a timeline for everyone to know how we got here through our intentional integration initiative. And just know that we're now in year 4. That means this year, our integration grades included kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. Please know that when we talk about grades, that kindergarten and our rising 5th graders who become our 6th graders are the only whole groups that go through intentional integration. When we talk about 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 6th, 7th and 8th grade, those are our new enrollees. So when new students come in, we put them through the algorithm. Just to give you a highlight of the algorithm that we use, the variables that go into placement. These are the 4 placement variables that go into our III, parental educational level, income, sibling preference, and proximity. These come off of the registration materials, and please note that the parental education level and the parental income level are optional. But if people don't put that on the registration, what is used is the census information for the neighborhood area and the average that comes up for those particular areas. And so if you don't designate this on the registration material, the U.S. Census average for the particular area that you live in comes, and then each person is assigned an SES tier, tier 1 being low, tier 2 being mid, and tier 3 being high. And please note, as you see on our factors, race is not one of the variables that is used in our algorithm. The algorithm is what we call race neutral, but that does not mean we don't have to monitor the racial makeup of our schools. A quick reference point about the statistics that I'm about to show you. If you see on the screen and you try to get your calculator and say, well, this doesn't add up to be 100%, that's because in order to protect some of our students, because of the low number of the students that are in there, we had to protect the data. And so you will see an item on the statistics that talks about less than or greater than 5%. That factors into the adding of those particular percentages. And so I'm going to actually run through. This was the kindergarten enrollment in 21-22, 22-23, last year. And this year, you will see that up to this particular point, now this number will change because this data is picked up from where we are now. We have enrolled over 515 kindergartners through our intentional integration efforts, and you can see how that has spread out and spanned across our school district. This is our first grade enrollment numbers from 22-23. You can see that we had to protect those students. There were only 33, so we hit the totals, and then that's why you see it like that. This is 23-24. This is 24-25, our current. I don't know why it's flashing like that, but I hope we figure that out. There were 38 first graders enrolled in school through our intentional integration. That's 38 new first graders, and as you can see, the percentage as they span out there at the bottom. This is our second grade enrollment. Now you see that started at 23-24. Last year was the first year we did our new second graders. And so this was the enrollment last year. And in this year, we've only had 22 new second graders enrolled through our III. Sixth grade enrollment from 22-23. That was the first year of their mass enrollment into the III. And 24-25, 531 sixth graders, and this is the percentages and how they panned out at our 2 middle schools. And then 7th grade enrollment, 31 newly enrolled 7th graders this year. And then 8th grade, this is the first year we had our new 8th graders come in, and so far we've had 21 new 8th graders come in through III. So now, before we go into our figures, this is the enrollment as of yesterday. We went through Power School and pulled these numbers out. So this is what our demographic data looks like across our district. We are, our white population is 54, our students are 54.4%. Our Asian students make up 3.3%. Our Black students make up 21.9%. Our multiracial students make up 13.4%, and then our Pacific Islanders make up 0.2% of our student population. This is how the demographics run across our schools. You can see the visualization here. If you start at 0 and go to 100, you can see how that distribution looks like across our schools. But for those of you who are really getting real close to the television and trying to figure that out, here's the table that goes along with that. So on how our students spread out demographically across our school. I think it was important to add this slide. This is the first time we put this in our presentation, because I think for you to really understand the other numbers that I'm going to present for you, you kind of need to know how our demographics look in our district. But I also wanted to talk about this. So in 2013, 2014, this is what our district looked like. And I really want you to pay close attention to the white population versus the multi-racial population and our Black population. You can see in 2013, 2014, our population of Black students, for example, was 36.3%. Then in 22, 23, you can see that number drop to 23.3%. And the white population of students increased, and so did our multiracial student population increase. And in 23, 24, this is what the numbers look like. As you can see, still there was a decline in our population, a rise in our white student population, a rise in our multiracial population, and a decline in our Black population. And then you saw the numbers that I put up for our current look and our current district as it looks like now. So course enrollment in classes, just a little background. By way of settlement agreement, we are required by January 31st of each school year to prepare a written report and course enrollment by race and gender. That's important for me to put out there because you will see some gender slides that we put in there that are in our binary, that are divided by binaries, male and female. However, we do want to acknowledge that we do have several students in our district who are not gender non-conforming. Therefore, but their numbers aren't put in here because we have to protect their identities, and if we're putting them in there, we're kind of out them. But this is why this presentation is important. So one other statistical reference I want you to see. So you'll notice when you look through here that maybe on some of the slides, some of our class data doesn't match up quite to what the enrollment data says. That is because a couple of groups of our populations of students, so these numbers come from the subject area identification markers that we use in our district. However, for our multilingual students and our special education students, they have different markers. And so they are not included in the numbers. So you're going to see the difference. So the numbers, you'll say, well, you just said we had 23.2% Black population as an enrollment, but I'm looking at this number in this course and it's not adding up. That's why it's not adding up, because the multilingual students and the special education students are not in that particular number. They have a different identification marker. So I just want you to see that, because I know there are going to be people who are going to go through this with a fine-tooth comb, and I just wanted to make sure I put that out. So here's Maplewood Middle School's enrollment numbers. This is the number based on our males and our females. And again, we want to acknowledge the fact that we do have some non-binary gender identification students who aren't represented here, but that's for the protection of those students. Here's the 4-year trend. I want you to pay attention to the 4-year trend. As you can see, just as the numbers I showed you with the entire school population, or what we've looked like in this district over 4 years, over 4 years of data I gave you, you can see that our schools are mirroring that. As you can see, an increase in our white student population versus our other student populations, which are slowly declining. Here's the 4-year trend on gender. Now, I'm not going to go over every single course, but I do want to go over the 4 content areas if I can quickly. And these are the trends as you see across the line in language arts in Maplewood Middle School by gender. These are going to be the science numbers, the 4-year trend data in science. Social studies. And then I left the world language piece in as well, so you can see, especially for our multilingual students, to kind of get their view into the space. These are the course enrollment numbers for South Orange Middle School. Again, pay attention to the trend line data. This is the current enrollment for 24-25. But then when you go to the trend data, just remembering the numbers that I showed now at our particular schools to see. Now the multiracial group at South Orange Middle School is actually rising. That's why you see the rise in the other category to the 24.1 percentile. And you can see South Orange is pretty much remaining kind of flat in terms of the enrollment, but with a slight decrease in the Black population. This is the gender breakdown for South Orange Middle School. Language arts. If I'm clicking too fast, let me know. Science. Social studies. And world language. And then Columbia High School. Now, Columbia High School's trend is actually trending just as we showed in our data, but you can see that the white population of our students seems to be increasing at a faster rate than our other populations of students as they are starting to show a decline in enrollment. This is the 24-25 numbers by gender. This is the 4-year trend. Our multiracial population is the one holding steady in that other category that's keeping that number relatively flat. And by gender. Now, inside of our high school, though, our high school does have honors and AP courses, so you're going to be able to see what that trend data looks like. I want to call your attention here to the language arts data and to show that what we're seeing in language arts, in particular at Columbia High School as an example of what's happening across the board in some of our advanced placement courses. For example, in our language arts area, for example, we did see about a plus 15 increase of students who went from AP in the previous year to this year enrollment into advanced placement courses in our English language arts classes. That's good. But as you see, and you're going to look across the data as I click through here quickly, you're going to see that's not the case in many of our other classes, right? So I wanted to stop and pause here with that reflective point to know that what we're seeing in our advanced placement courses is what was outlined for us in the Rutgers report, that we're still challenged with moving some of our BIPOC and our most marginalized students into our advanced placement classes. Now, remember those slides that I showed you at the beginning that also shows the population decrease of our school district in those particular populations. What that tells us is that our challenge is even greater, because as those populations shrink, we have to be as more and more intentional in making sure we open those classes up, because now there's a smaller populations of students that are open that we have to kind of move into those particular classes. Does that make sense? So this is language arts. This is science. Science and language arts are pretty much trending in somewhat in similar fashion. I mean, science and, language arts is trending in somewhat similar fashion. Now, social studies, you'll see, this is where, especially at advanced placement courses, we saw some of our largest increase of students, especially some of our BIPOC and marginalized students. A lot of that this year also is contributed to the fact, we opened up another AP class at the high school, AP African American Studies. That opened up a class that got more students actually involved in it. And our U.S. History AP class seems to be one of our rising stars and able to, in getting students, especially our BIPOC students and our marginalized students. And surprisingly enough, AP Psychology is another class that we're seeing a growing trend of students moving in to that particular course. And here's world languages. I wanted to really put our world language AP numbers up, but again, those numbers aren't as high as I needed them to be to put that data on the screen. And I just wanted to protect those students because I just wanted to make sure we couldn't identify those students. But we are seeing a little bit of an increase in our world language for AP classes in some of them. So as I talked about, I gotta go quick. As I talked about earlier, here are some of our first time. This is what our numbers look like over 3 years for our AP students. I just did the 4 core areas. As you can see, we saw a little bit of a drop in AP English from last year to this year, but they had a significant increase from 21-22. And these numbers are like our first time BIPOC and marginalized students who enrolled in those classes. But as you can see, social studies, it has shown a trend of increasing the last couple of years. And then also, we're seeing a slight trend in AP Calculus and Statistics. Those are 2 of the classes I pulled out because they had such a high number. And in our sciences, we had a huge jump last year, and we dropped down slightly this year in the number of first-time BIPOC students. Now, again, these are first-time students. I don't have a chart in here to show you the entire enrollment in those classes, but remember, our aim is to try to see how we can get more of those students into AP, and once they're in the AP, how we support them to keep them in. And these are just some of the classes I wanted to highlight. These are some of the success stories I think you should see. There's our ELA composition class. Even though they showed a decrease this past year from 33 to 27, last year they had 33 students in there. I talked about psychology, which has a large number of our first-time BIPOC and marginalized students taking those courses. History, I think driven, like I say, greatly by a U.S. AP history class, but also the addition to the AP African American history class has helped in that area. And then you can see the other classes. There we have saw a sharp decline in AP chemistry, which is something we got to keep our eye on as well. So some of the things that we're doing as we talk about expanding our AP work for our BIPOC and marginalized student populations. AP and Me Social Norms campaign for Columbia High School is coming. An Uplift Committee, which is a district-led committee that's going to be working with students and their families to encourage them to take advanced level courses, right? We're doing some work in growth mindset in this district, and this is one of those avenues that we want to make sure we encourage students to do. Pre-AP framework integration in the 8th grade is something that's coming along on the horizon. And then we're going to work to get some Columbia High School scorers on AP within the middle grades, ELA teachers, really starting to look into our middle schools, which I'm going to give you some data on that, because that is really our training ground and our growing ground for our advanced placement courses. Additional supports that we're going to be putting in place, and specifically support, with the emphasis on supporting our BIPOC and our other marginalized students. Because remember, I told you, accelerating is one way, but how do we keep them accelerated? Support programming. This is create a 5th and 6th grade transition plan for math, which we'll talk about at some other point. Intentional grouping of kids in classes, so math intervention teachers, parent outreach and information meetings. And again, I talked about the uplift community. And now why I wanted to put this, and this is emphasis around math, is because math in middle school is our marker for if our students, is our marker where we're trying to see if our students will advance to higher level classes. In middle school, math is the only course that we have that has leveled, right? So we have an advanced math, and we have honors math, and so tracking those students in that work kind of gives us a gauge if these students are going to move on to high level classes. And so this is the math trend that we've seen in our middle schools, MMS, over the last 4 years. By gender. This is Psalms. By the way, Psalms is South Orange Middle School. I got to watch my jargon. And this is Columbia High School. And within those AP classes, calculus and statistics, and there's also one other class. There's it's a physics class, but it's like an Algebra 1 type of focus area too. And there you go. Questions?
Questions, anyone?
I was just curious, I know we have education, income, sibling, and proximity. Are those weighted all the same, or is one stronger than the other? Just curious.
So I can't answer because I don't have I don't know the ins and out of the algorithm that they use. So I don't know what the weight values are in that. I just know that those are the areas that go into determining where we place the students. Yep. No, thank you. No.
It's my first statement as a new board member. One of the slides that actually caught my eye was the one that had the enrollment of the new kindergarten. It showed that we had 515 kindergartners. Mm-hmm. Just kind of want to like point out to the board and the public that, you know, it is about 70 students below our peak. In 2018-19, we had 586 kindergartners. Like we know our enrollment is actually lower than it was about 5 or 6 years ago when we passed the LRFP. And, you know, a conversation for the board, the district, the community to have in the next few months and years is something to do with, like, how do we adapt to our low enrollment? Like, we want to make the best use of our school facilities and help ourselves budgetarily and educationally. And where have we not? Are there any conversations the district is having about, like, enrollment that you would like to share?
So there's several conversations that we're beginning to have. Primarily, one of the areas is, as you know, as we move through intentional integration initiative, we really got, next year, we add our fourth graders, and then the next year, we're gonna add our fifth graders. And so we really are trying to look at not only the trend data as they move there, but we know that in 2 years, the group of fifth graders that we put through the algorithm are going to be the first whole group of students who actually went through the algorithm as kindergartners. Now we know we're putting our families in the unpairing at Marshall through the algorithm again, but that's a little different than saying we have our kindergarten students and then in a couple of years they're going to go. So our conversations around what does this look like at that inflection point? That's the first thing. And when we talk about enrollment in our kindergartens, one of the things we really are working with our schools on, our people around, is that all of our kindergarten schools are great. Our expectation is for those kindergarten schools to do the very best they can for their young people. And so we know that sometimes the anxiety around III, when you go through the algorithm and run to where your placement is, our concern is typically around making sure that the students who get placed at those schools get the very best education they can. Now, as you talk about in terms of enrollment numbers and getting those numbers up, I think that's larger conversation as a district that we should have in terms of what is it we need to do to market ourselves or prepare ourselves as new families and things come in. So those are the kind of internal discussions. And also part of the Rutgers implementation plan also includes us actually looking at housing, looking at other factors that may be influencing our intentional integration initiative. So that's a lot, but it's happening.
So I have two questions. One is, are we tracking the races within the multiracial? And if so, I think it'd be interesting to start looking at that. It's been so long since I registered my kids, I can't remember. But so that's one of my questions. The second question is on slide 120, where you talked about additional supports for BIPOC students. One of the things listed was create a 5th to 6th grade transition plan, which caught my eye. I think that's a great idea. Are these things that are going to be happening, or is this in the future, will happen at some point?
So this, I'll start with the last question and go to the other question. So this year, part of, as you know, the Rutgers implementation plan was for us to look at our math pathways as well as look at increasing our rigor in math and putting together a systemic approach that advances our students through math. And I'll tell you, we're talking a lot about math, but the reason we're working through math is our test for the rest of our subjects. So that 5th to 6th grade plan will happen this year. This is the plan we're putting in place this year to help move as many students as we can into higher level math classes in middle school. So that's kind of a sneak peek into some of the work that we're doing. The whole plan will be revealed once we work out some of the other issues, but that's going to happen. Yep, that's perfect. Now, to your multiracial question. So our multiracial category is actually a category that's recognized in the state. So that's, or people call it 2 or more races, right? So people who identify with 2 or more. Our other groups are captured, but their numbers are significantly small. And so they were kind of in the other section, and we're not trying to other individuals, but that's where we kind of put everyone together. So in the enrollment slides for the schools, multiracial was included in that particular, but as we went to the class sizes, although multiracial is in there, the significant numbers would lean themselves more to our multiracial population than our other populations. Okay.
So I have 2 questions for you, Dr. Gilbert, and they're separate, so I'll ask them one at a time. First of all, with regard to the algorithm that you were discussing before, I know that originally with the III plan, we were basing the determination of parental education and income level on the census data, the American Community Survey. And there was a move toward then bringing in the parent-provided information. Are we this year, or for 24-25, did we rely solely on that for as many parents as provided it? I know that in past years we kind of looked at it, but had that as sort of a background info and was primarily using the census data.
Yeah, so we lean first on the data that's given to us. If the families identify that on the registration packets, then that's the data we use. We only go to the census data when we do not have that particular. So if Kevin Gilbert doesn't put his income level, and Kevin Gilbert Jr. is going to be I don't have a son named Kevin Gilbert Jr. by the way. It's going to get placed into a school. Then they have to go to where I live to see what the census data says my average education level in there, so they can go into the algorithm. So as much as possible, we just encourage families to fill that information out. Then we can use that real-time information. But if not, so I don't know the data on if we have more families that identified than others, but our first goal is to use the data that's on the registration forms. Okay.
Got it, thanks. And my second question, totally other end of the slide deck here. I really appreciate you providing these 4-year trend data slides. But looking at them is tough, right? Because we're not seeing the kind of progress we'd like to see in moving our Black, Hispanic, and other students into those higher level classes. In fact, in some of them, we're seeing a decline in either direction. And I appreciate you talking about what we're doing to address those in the high school, looking at the middle school and it's obviously coming up from the earlier grades as well. I guess my question is, and I don't know if you're prepared to answer this, but in looking at this through the lens of the Rutgers implementation and our settlement, how does this data reflect on our ability to meet our obligations under the settlement right now? And what do these numbers, sort of what are they saying as far as what we need to do differently in order to make sure that we are staying on track?
Right. So I would answer it by saying I think the plans that we're making it should make an impact, right? So now, and as I've talked about in the past, we're looking at a 3 to 5 year plan, and we talked about last year we were gathering our information. This year we finally got our data infrastructure in place. So year 3 next year, we should see some movement. Some of the things that you saw me put up there are our plans to get that movement going, our intentional efforts to see those numbers rise. I don't make guarantees, but what I will say is by putting those things in place, we hope to see those numbers start increasing. And by the end of the 5 years, we hope to start next year and the year after that to start seeing a steady increase and start showing that the things that we're putting in place are going to work. And there's only the beginning, because there's other things we have to do. I mean, that's only part of the story. I didn't put the professional development pieces up there too, because when you break the number down on how we keep our students in advanced level, they've been very clear that there's certain barriers that are preventing them from going on further, which means we got to do a lot of professional development with our students, and we got to make sure we as an institution aren't putting barriers in place that prevent those from happening. And so all of that's happening right now, but I think the Uplift team, which is Dr. Bean, I'm giving you your doctorate, sir, brought that to us, as well as the Uplift teams are going to be great. I think the 5th and 6th grade work that we're going to be doing with families, I think the growth mindset work that we're putting in, and we've been putting in a lot of equity work with our principals through our DAP meetings, and I know we also put together a 5-year kind of professional development plan for our teachers. All of that combined, we hope that you all will be quite pleased with our ability to advance those numbers and do what we have to do to meet those recommendations.
Thanks.
Oh man, a student question. Let me sit up for this.
Yeah, I was just wondering if data is also being collected on the performances in these classes by race and gender, because I understand that the first step is to get them into, get our marginalized groups into advanced classes, but once we're there, is there a measure of how they're doing and if they're being supported? And if so, what are kind of the most direct measures that are being made to encourage these students to actually perform in these classes?
Yeah, absolutely. So this part was talking about getting them in, but absolutely we're monitoring how they do while they're in the class, right? And there are supports in place at the high school level that we're monitoring that we hope to spread out across into our middle schools, like AP Core, for example, which is a class designed to help people who may be struggling in advanced placement courses to kind of get them back on track. Well, things like that. So yes, we're definitely monitoring the grades that students are making, and it's more than just getting them in there. We want to keep them in there, but we can't keep them in there if we don't have the supports. And so we're looking, some of the supports that you saw here are things that we can also do. And then we're always looking for other interventions and things to keep them there. So, but absolutely, because to your point, we want you to be successful in the class. We don't want this to be a number and say, hey, we got you in. We want to make sure we support you to keep you in and make sure you're successful. Yep, thank you.
I'd be remiss, because Ann Bodner's not here, to mention Linkit and the change that's making in our practice. Part of this work is also going to be around getting more granular with the data, which is going to include the development of common assessments going from pre-K through 12. So we'll have a nice data card, or baseball card as we're calling it, for every student in the district.
Absolutely.
Well, not a question, but I wanted to say thank you to you, Dr. Gilbert, and your team for your dedication to this work, especially in the context of the national climate. Some parents might be concerned about our commitment to having our BIPOC and marginalized students reach their full potential and maintain success in these high-level classes. So this presentation shows that although we have work to do, we don't intend to leave any of our students behind. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely co-sign what Board Member Sackett-Gable said. This gives me a lot of hope to see, even though we are certainly still a work in progress in terms of the supports and getting the outcomes that we want. And I guess my question is really going back to those supports, I guess to better understand the effectiveness. I think a lot of them sound right in terms of outreach, and it looks like uplifting groups might be looking at how do we perhaps leverage students to one student voice to affect another. How do we understand the effectiveness of these additional supports in increasing participation in advanced courses? Do we have plans to survey students and families who participate in them? So specifically, would we gather feedback from those who maybe received some of those inputs so that we could understand or determine what initiatives are particularly effective in their decision to enroll in AP courses so that we can further refine those practices?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the things that I did not mention that we're currently doing, focus groups, for example. So one of the things that helped drive a lot of the language that we saw in the equity audit from Rutgers was that they did focus groups, and that's a practice that we've continued the last several years and one that we continue to do. So we hope to get feedback from that area. Definitely want to talk about Mr. Bean mentioned the baseball card, and that's something that's going to be new to our families that we're going to be explaining all of that to them. And part of that baseball card is actually going to include a recommendation from the district where we're actually going to sit down, especially with families who see that recommendation and go, I don't care what the district says, I want my child in regular math, but we want to meet with them and let them know why we believe their child can be successful. The work that we're doing around growth mindset. So definitely the only way we're going to know if we're going to be successful, I would love to say that we can be the gauge of success by looking at that, but we got to hear from the people. We got to hear from the students. We got to hear from the families. We got to hear from the staff. That's where we learn if we're doing what we say we're going to do. And so absolutely, that's going to be on the horizon.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the word, and we had this conversation with Dr. Fergus around the idea of inputs, and just for us, that's work that we need to do on our end, is widening those inputs and getting more quality. So our data reflects that, and we can use that data really to drive more decisions.
Absolutely.
Hi, Dr.
Hi.
Gilbert. Thank you so much for this presentation. I love all this data. You know that I do. I have just two comments and two questions. The first is, seeing the trend over time is really important. And if it's at all possible moving forward, I think it would be helpful to give some sense of numbers so that you know what's a denominator effect versus an actual reduction or increase in students. What also would be helpful is if there's a sense of how many AP classes are in a subject area. So for business, I know we have AP Econ. I'm not sure if there's any other APs that fall within that category. Versus science, I think we offer a lot of other AP courses. So it gives a sense of kind of how many classes are affecting the data we're looking at. But to my questions, I think, for what I saw here was a little bit of a win in terms of Black enrollment in language arts, in terms of us getting back to, we had a 10% increase from last year to this past year. And then in media tech, I saw a steady increase in Black student enrollments, 5% each year. And I was just wondering if there's anything, which I think is related to what Liz and Mr. Bing were saying, is there anything we can learn from those jumps in terms of how did those students decide to enroll in those classes, and maybe we can mimic what happened there in other classes?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've partnered with Equal Opportunity Schools. And one of the things Equal Opportunity Schools does is not only do they do surveys, but they do trusted adults work with the staff and stuff. And they've actually given us data from talking to our advanced placement students, as well as our students who aren't in AP. And what we've learned in some of the data that they've given us around students' desire to go, you wouldn't believe the importance of the influence that our adults have on the expectations that they have for our young people, right? One of the things that really stood out in the data that I saw, although it wasn't as high as I wanted it to see, was that about 50% of the students said an adult encouraged me to go into the AP course. Also, unfortunately, one of the barriers or one of the reasons why students leave AP is they don't feel like they have the support, or they don't feel the encouragement from the actual AP teachers, a reason why they get out, right? So we got two ends of that spectrum, right, that we have to work on, right? So we know if we invest in the growth mindset to have our teachers really encourage students to get in, they get there. And then we invest in helping our AP teachers understand that once they're here, how valuable and important you are in helping them maintain and invest in their skills, invest in their well-being. That actually helps us. So we are collecting that data, and that data is relevant. I want to go to your comment because I didn't pay you to do this, but I'm glad you did it. There's going to be another document that I'm going to make available to the board and that we're also going to put on our website, which actually gives you the raw numbers that I presented in the percentages. The slide deck is already 120. If I had included those slides, it might have been to 200 or 300. I know y'all might have run me out of the district for that. So we're going to be putting that together. You all are going to get it as a board, and we're going to put it so you can actually see what those numbers look like, and then that can better help you understand where we're going. So I thank you for putting that in the space.
And thanks for that. I'm excited to see that. I think, and then when I was kind of looking at the more negative data that we definitely want to improve, I saw that science, Black enrollment in the science AP courses has declined significantly. Also, Black students make up a large proportion of the regular science courses. Same with language arts, social studies, and world languages. So I know right now our discussions around AP, but even thinking about what we can do to support Black students move from regular to honors courses, I think would be something to look at, because those proportions seem very off. 50% or more in those classes are Black students, when as you've shown, our Black student population is more like 20%. Thanks.
We don't want to forget that our honors class is also an advanced course that we want to help encourage, and we are looking at those numbers as well. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Gilbert. That was great. We know it was a lot of work.
Thank you. All right.
And next is our business administrator update.
Thank you, Madam President. And thank you, Dr. Gilbert, for all of the updates on the III initiative. And I applaud both the board and the district on taking a multi-year approach and looking at incremental gains and being self-reflective and trying to continue to grow those initiatives. Similarly, with the construction update, of course, we have the proceeds of several bond referendums that we're completing out some work on. So I'll just read through the work as it's coming to completion. Of course, we always have continuing maintenance and construction needs in the district, and we tailor those to dovetail to create academic environments for growth for all of our students. So, construction update, Seth Boyden School. Epic management closeout items are being addressed by the APS contractors. Our final architectural punch lists, re-inspections were issued, and APS, who's the contractor, is addressing a handful of items. Final change order review meetings are being held and conducted with Spiesel, Epic, and APS, which are our architect and our general contractors at Seth Boyden. On to Tuscan School. Epic management closeout of items are being addressed by APS. Final architectural punch list items and inspections were issued, and APS is addressing a handful of items there. Final change order review meetings are also being conducted with Spiesel, our architect, and Epic and APS. Marshall School, the building management system programming is to be completed in short order, and the architectural punch list items are also coming to completion. With Montrose School, the boilers are operational and condensate tank was installed, and now everything appears to be working properly. The building management systems programming is also scheduled to be completed in short order, and architectural punch list items are to be completed at Montrose. With Columbia High School, we've got D-Wing. The new science rooms were completed. The A-Wing science rooms are underway. The media center, we're working on casework and final finishes to be completed in February. Commons area completed and in use by the school. Roofs and coatings are underway on the B-Wing areas, and they continue. A-Wing science rooms work is underway, wall framing and sheetrock is underway. Renovation of existing guidance area is also ongoing at Columbia. Maplewood Middle School, our boiler room is completed and all boilers are functional. We're working on punch list items and troubleshooting some heating issues that have arisen during these cold weeks. The building management systems programming is ongoing and almost completed. An initial training will occur next week on that building management system. Final area of the roof will be completed next week when the weather is a bit warmer, and the privacy room and all gender bathrooms are completed and in use by the school. South Orange Middle School electrical service via Bennett, the work will be completed in the next 2 weeks, and they're making connections from the new switch to the main distribution panel now. Due to the revised delivery date, from late December, Bennett's now targeting completion at the end of January. South Orange Middle School is waiting for the building permit and should be issued this week. They've set up site trailers and they're starting demolition for 2 new bathrooms and ordering materials. So we're looking for some good things to happen further in the spring, but a lot of things are coming to completion. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Moody. I'll now read the board president's update. First, I would like to acknowledge that this has been a difficult month for many in our nation and here in Soma. After a month filled with natural disasters displacing our loved ones, drastic changes happening by our new presidential administration, DEI being eradicated, LGBTQ rights in peril, ICE raids, and the condemnable actions from the weekend at our local synagogue, Oheb Shalom, I feel compelled to share that I personally hope those affected continue to persevere in the face of these challenges. In addition, the Board of Education remains committed to vigilantly tracking federal and state level policies, reviewing and reaffirming and strengthening our district policies as needed to protect our students and create safe learning environments, and working collaboratively with the district, municipal leaders, and our community to uphold our mission and values in support of all parents, students, and staff. On behalf of the board, I would like to extend our condolences and acknowledge the passing of a pillar in our community, Carol Berry Austin. Carol was a founding trustee of the South Orange Maplewood Community Coalition on Race, who held numerous leadership roles within the organization for 28 years, including co-chairing the coalition's schools committee. I personally had the pleasure of collaborating with Carol on initiatives and observed firsthand her advocacy for equity in our school district. She'll be greatly missed. This month, an important milestone was accomplished. We created our board governance manual with the support of Superintendent Mr. Bing and the Superintendent's office. This is a board goal that we began implementing last year. Thank you to all of the past and current board members who contributed to this great effort. It will be reviewed on an annual basis to update as needed. Next, I'd like to share some fun behind-the-scenes details about Board of Ed life and acknowledge the board's Sunshine Committee. The Sunshine Committee has been in existence since 2024, thanks to board member Callahan, launching the idea when she and I connected on ways to improve board culture. She has helped us carry this on in 2025. One of the very important mandates of the Sunshine Committee is keeping a record of members' personal preferences on things like their favorite coffee or ways we can show appreciation, such as celebrating their birthday when we go to our exec session at board meetings. So a big happy birthday to those celebrating this month. Board members Eckert and Callahan, happy birthday. Eckert's living her best life elsewhere right now. Last but not least, I'm pleased to share that 3 weeks after our first SOMEA negotiations meeting held on January 7th, we achieved an important next step. Today we signed our memorandum of agreement with SOMEA. Can't see Rosie is over there dancing in the corner. and we are working on the salary guide. Although we had not come to a tentative agreement with the mediator on the 7th, after negotiating until 1:30 a.m., our efforts continued thereafter to get to where we are today. Once the salary guide is agreed upon, it will be ratified by SOMEA and then voted on by the board as the final step. Thank you to everyone involved, and we look forward to finalizing the SOMEA contract this school year for our hardworking teachers. Thank you. Now I'll read the board president's statement. The school board meeting is a business meeting in public and not a meeting with the public. Oftentimes, it may appear to members of our audience that the Board of Education takes action with very little comment, and in many cases, a unanimous vote. Before a matter is placed on the agenda at a public meeting, it has thoroughly been reviewed by the administration, the superintendent of schools, and the Board of Education, after which it is placed on the agenda for board discussion and action at a public meeting. Now I will read hearing of individuals and delegations for public speaks. Thank you for coming in person and joining us online this evening. The South Orange Maplewood Board of Education values public involvement and respects that you've taken the time to address the board at tonight's meeting. As this is the board's business meeting, a friendly reminder to please be respectful as we take into consideration your valuable input, which will inform future deliberations and work by the Board of Education and its committees. The board does have time limits by policy, and it will be enforcing those to enable as many people to speak as possible this evening. Each individual will be given 3 minutes to speak. The first public comment period is usually limited to 1 hour, with priority given to items related to the meeting agenda, and the second public comment period may be limited to 30 minutes. Okay, first up, Fred Profeta. Thank you.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Bing, and Madam President. I'm here tonight to follow up on an email that I sent to each of you yesterday on the subject of the partial closure of the Underhill Sports Complex to the public, and this was a closure that was set forth in a memorandum from Mr. Bing that was effective on January 1. The memo stated that certain unruly persons were refusing to leave the field over a period of time when students were using the field, and has forced district staff to call the local police to handle the situation. The email sent to you outlined the history of this field and its renovation in 2008, and I'm not going to repeat that here in the interest of time, but just for bottom line, at that time I was the mayor of Maplewood and I was leading an effort on the public.
Hey, Fred, can you give the background on the field?
Excuse me?
Can you give the background on the field? I'll give you some extra. Can you just give a little background on, because I thought it was interesting when we met.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, well, thank you. It started because the condition of Underhill Field at that time was awful. It was basically just a dirt field. It had little grass. Parents were upset that their children were injured or could be injured. Visiting teams didn't want to come here to play. You couldn't play field hockey because the ball went all over the place, and same with soccer. So there was a big outcry. And I addressed this board at the time and said that I was willing to make a public pledge of some money, and would the board do the same, and they did. And I said I would undertake to raise money from various sources, main ones being Seton Hall and the public. I then spoke for some time, over a year, negotiated with the president of Seton Hall, Monsignor Sheeran, who originally came up with a figure of $100,000 he wanted to give. Finally, he was at $500,000, but he wanted to make sure that Seton Hall students were able to share the facilities also, and we guaranteed that. And along with me in those negotiations with him were the board president, and it was Beth Doherty during part of that time. The public portion was in various segments. There was an outreach to the Columbia High School Alumni Association, which produced a lot of money. One of the reasons was that we were going to name this field, the football field, after my mother, who was a teacher in this district for 30 years and was really much beloved. So when using her name and saying, oh, we're going to name it after her, that actually helped raise some money. We ended up, then the Profeta family, of course, was induced to contribute also. So we ended up with 500 from Seton Hall, 500 from the district, and 750 from the public. So the predominant source of the funds was the public, and it was understood at the time, Seton Hall had it in a resolution that there would be this access to the field, as long as it didn't interfere with activities of district students. It was also understood that that would be the same for the general public. But that was back in 2008, so, you know, we don't expect everybody to keep records of all these things, but indeed, that's what happened. So I met with Superintendent Bing on January 15 to discuss this history and the partial closure, and very productive conversation. I thank him very much for the courtesies he extended to me, and he proposed a tentative solution. Of course, the devil's in the details, but this is the outline of it, that there would be 2 stages, and that stage 1 would be residents only of South Orange and Maplewood who are 55 and older, if they had a pass, would be able to access the facilities as long as they didn't interfere with district students. Stage 2 would be, if stage 1 was successful, stage 2 would then open it up to the general public with the same provisos. Now, I think it's important, you know, part of this thing and Superintendent's memo was the involvement of police. I wanted to check on that because I had heard various accounts of this. So I spoke to this, the field, you know, is in Maplewood. So it's the Maplewood Police Chief that is involved. I talked to Chief Sally about this this week. Now, there are various reasons you can imagine for this, but here's what I learned from him. He hadn't heard about this. And I said, oh, you got records? He said, oh, sure, we got records. So we'll go back to the records and tell me what you find. So he called me back yesterday, and he said that from the beginning of 2024 to the present, the police have not removed any person from the field who's unruly or aggressive. And they responded during that period of time 10 times to the field. None of those, the records don't show any infractions of the rules involved with those incidents. 2 of them involved suspicious vehicles. 2 of them were medical issues. 1 was a ball that was kicked through the window of a neighboring residence. So there's a disconnect here between, and I think we have to dive into some of this information and find out what's really going on. Maybe the district staff was able to handle these more than often than not. Didn't need to involve the Maplewood police. But whatever it is, we want to make sure that that the solution fits the problem. We don't over-regulate, we don't under-regulate. I'd like to get it just right to the extent possible. And I greatly appreciate Superintendent Bing's willingness to talk about changing that January 1 memo and to extend those courtesies to me. He's been very gracious, and I wanted you and the public all to know this. Thanks very much.
Thank you. David Stanford Burr. Burr. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Good evening. My name is David Stanford Burr, a Maplewoodian and a senior citizen, and here is my December 19th, 2024 letter to the editor of the News Record titled, "Underhill Restrictions Are Not Needed." The 11/21/2024 News Record article, "Soma District Announces Hours That Public Can Use Underhill," referred to a new school board policy of restricting community access to Underhill Sports Complex on school days from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's 35 hours a week, which goes into effect 1/1/2025. Superintendent of Schools Jason Bing says this peremptory action is intended to strike a balance between usage and efficiency. I fail to perceive the balance considering the community of taxpayers who value Underhill's track as a necessary facility for maintaining health and well-being, especially among its seniors. The Underhill track is the only track for running, jogging, and walking in the community that is currently open to the public. It has long been used by the public as a convenient and safe neighborhood resource. The alternative is for our citizenry to take to the streets, which imposes hazards of falling, negotiating around other joggers, dangerous crosswalks, and vehicular traffic, which is a public safety issue. The track's rubberized surface is kinder to feet and joints than paved roads and sidewalks. The track is little used by students during school hours as Columbia students are in class, in the gym, or on Columbia's field. It is Clinton School's elementary students during recess or outdoor activities that are the main beneficiary. But why are 8 hours per school day set aside for recess? Where is the balance in that equation? Furthermore, one of the rationalizations given for this fiat is to preserve the artificial turf on the field, but the Clinton students exclusively use the field, while adults who want to walk or exercise use the track. For decades, Clinton has used its own field for recess and has an extensive playground with a jungle gym and other apparatus. The Underhill track, like much of Soma facilities, was built and is maintained by the taxes of its residents, who are expected to continue doing so while their community services are cut. Clearly, if the facility is hosting a track meet, football game, soccer match, etc., then the prohibition on public use is reasonable. Otherwise, the facility should continue to be open to all. Less freedom is not an ideal that should be allowed to reign. I urge my neighbors to speak up against this overreach and task the school board with transparent accountability so we may all enter into a happy new year. For further context, there are 43,000 citizens in South Orange Maplewood, and there are 550 enrolled non-tax-paying Clinton elementary students, which represents 1.27%. Hardly a democratic resolution or a balance between usage and efficiency. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Leonard Reback? Thank you.
Good evening. My daughter is a student at Columbia High School in Miss Scrivenick's honors pre-calculus class. She was doing fine in the class until the teacher went on maternity leave on December 3rd, which I understand is going to persist through most of the remaining school year. No substitute was hired, and there was no plan in place to ensure uninterrupted learning. Families were informed on December 9th that students would be using an online learning program, and parent information session was held on December 12th. It took another week for the student accounts to be set up. That was just 2 days before winter break, meaning that they went 3 weeks without math education. We understand that it's challenging to find leave replacements in math, but the online program has been problematic. The students watch short videos that are not always effective and then do lots of problems. The initial problems are usually fine, but then they move very quickly on to complex problems involving tricks and a lot of algebra. Sometimes they involve concepts that will only be taught in future videos that haven't even been covered yet. They really need to focus on more basic problems that will allow the students to internalize and remember the concepts they just learned. My daughter spends usually spends more than an hour a night doing homework. And that's with me helping her, and sometimes more than 2 hours. I know that that's not a unique experience. We need a much more efficient and effective solution. No one checked in on her class until this past Friday. That day, Ms. Parcio came into her class and told the students that they're lying to their parents about how long it takes them to do homework and that there's a lot of idle time where they're not using their computer. I see for myself how much time she's spending, and she spends the so-called idle time working through algebra, graphing the equations, and looking up concepts that either haven't been covered yet, haven't been covered well, or that she just forgot from previous lessons. So these are some of what she's been doing during the idle time over the past 2 weeks, or the so-called idle time. The students were told that they could go to any pre-calculus teacher during conference period to get help, but they need to know which teachers to go to, where they're located, and when they're available. I emailed Ms. Parcio and Mr. Sanchez a couple of weeks ago asking for this information, and I have yet to hear back from them. In any case, the school is failing its honors students and needs to do much better. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy Gagne.
Good evening. I'm Nancy Gagne, Executive Director of the Community Coalition on Race. Thank you, Board Chair, President Duval Wilson, for acknowledging the sudden passing of our dear friend and colleague, Carol Barry Austin. We are grieving her loss deeply, and I invite the public who might want to learn more about her and all that she's given to our two towns and to this school district and to the Community Coalition on Race. Check out our website for the full tribute. I've known Carol since my days on the school board, which was over 20 years ago. I witnessed back then sitting on that side, and then regularly over these last 2 decades, her special talent for building relationships, bringing people from all perspectives, many of which went against her own, together to learn why integration and racial equity in schools and classrooms are critical to the success of a diverse community. And success means stably integrated, where all residents are valued, have a voice, and share in all community opportunities. And I want to veer from my written comments to thank Dr. Gilbert and everyone who was involved in collecting the data and putting together that presentation tonight. Long awaited, important, detailed information with potential solutions. And he used our word, which is being intentional about how we resolve this. This would make Carol proud. This is what she's been asking for longer than the time the coalition has been around. Carol never stepped back from the core goals of integration and excellence and equity for all students, no matter who was in charge or what groups were working to preserve their privileges over students of color. We will not waver from this goal, and will do all in our power to challenge the district to live into achieving real racial equity.
I'm Jocelyn Ryan. I
Hold on, Jocelyn. I want to make sure that they
Sure.
restart the time for you because you had
Sure.
your separate sign up. So you get your full time. Thank you.
I was Carol's co-chair of the schools committee. Carol Barry Austin spent 28 years trying to make our schools a better place for children of color. She forced many in our community to acknowledge the racial academic achievement gap. She pointed out the ridiculousness of our previous system of over-leveling when it was unpopular and cost the coalition town funding. She repeatedly appealed to this board not to sacrifice the good in the vain hope of a future perfect. She dragged many of us along with her on her quest to make this a more equitable district for students of color. She believed in the goals of the Intentional Integration Initiative, and the Schools Committee will continue to monitor its implementation and progress. The goal of the Schools Committee remains a school district that is stably integrated overall, where there is equity for all students within classrooms, levels, and schools, where the staff is racially and culturally diverse and committed to creating an inclusive, bias-free environment, where students of all races are expected and encouraged to excel in a community that is proud and supportive of its students. And until we have achieved that goal, we will continue the struggle as Carol would have wanted. Thank you.
Thank you. Last is John Clegg. Thank you.
My name is John McTagg, and I wasn't going to speak this evening, but my two colleagues, sort of suggested it. But nevertheless, so it's going to be a little bit of a hodgepodge. But again, my name is John McTagg. I am 76 years old and have lived on Park Avenue since 1982, and have used the Underhill facilities for over 20 years. And since my 2012 retirement, I go to the track about 5 times a week. During my time at the facility, I must have passed Clinton School teachers, staff, and the children playing hundreds of times. And I can say that there absolutely never once was a negative experience. Always a cordial smile and an acknowledgement and perhaps a few friendly words with the children. In fact, some of my exercise colleagues that go all the way back to 1978 also confirmed that they have never experienced quote-unquote negative reactions. I have asked many people, old and young, and no one recalls ever having negative reactions, or interactions. The nearly unanimous view among my fellow exercisers is more that they are grateful for the facility and treasure and respect it. Personally, USC, Underhill Sports Complex, has been a godsend to me. My long recovery from a 2021 surgery-induced stroke, the track itself was critical as far as my recovery. I had to learn again to walk before I could do anything else, and then slowly but surely I came back to jogging to the point where now I go 4 to 5 times a week, and my jogging is pretty much an old man's jog, but nevertheless, it's critical to me. And the other point I see I only have, as far as the issue of the police being called, I would like to have further details, and if possible, the police report. Picture this: an individual that has exercised on the track for many years, and by the way, is a person that pays some of the highest property taxes in the nation, is told that you have to leave the track. Well, this has never, ever happened to him before over the many years that he has exercised at USC. Perhaps some staff members at Clinton are new and were not familiar with the track operations, the history, and the utilization. I could go on and mention a few other points. My two colleagues have brought those up, but I stand firmly in favor of the continued utilization of the Underhill Sports Complex by the populace of both both South Orange and Maplewood. And as I said, I'm part of the over 55 crowd.
Thank you. Is the person online still there? Leonard? Oh, wait, no, you came, so we're good. Yes, perfect. All right, that's it then. Okay. So next we will have committee reports. I'm just going to give a little update. Much of the work our board does happens in committees, and the results are brought to the board meeting for action. Detailed minutes of each committee meeting are posted on our website, and we encourage you to review them. We'll now hear from the chairs of each of our committees with a few brief highlights from this month's meetings, and we'll just start from this side. So, Secretary Gable, you can be, are you okay to start, or? Okay, great.
Okay, so the Curriculum and Instruction Committee met on January 21st at 6:30 p.m. with all members present. We discussed progress and updates related to district goals, including the following highlights. For Goal 1, we received a preview of the middle school math presentation, which will be shared in the near future. For Goal 2, we heard initial updates to Freshman Academy for the 25-26 school year. And for Goal 4, there was a World Language Curriculum Night held the night of our meeting. We didn't review any new policies for adoption this month, but there is a revision to the high school computer graphics curriculum up for board approval. This revision ensures just greater coherence with the New Jersey learning standards. In addition, we received updates on the timeline for the recreation of the CHS student schedules for next year. The program of studies is on track to be completed and approved by the district C&I team this month, which ends tomorrow. And they are preparing for students to begin choosing classes by the end of February. At our February committee meeting, we'll receive another update on scheduling, and we'll have an opportunity to discuss the criteria the district is using to streamline course offerings for next year. Our next meeting will be on Monday, February 10th at 6:30. Any questions or comments? Okay, a full recap, as our board president said, is available on our district website.
Great, thank you. The Special Services Committee met on January 28th. We were joined by board members Meyer, Sackett Gable, Duval Wilson, along with Superintendent Bing, Ms. Jessa Maria, Dr. Gilbert, and Ms. Bodner. We began with a CPAC check-in with Ms. Cosentino, reinforcing goal number 4, increasing collaboration with CPAC at board committee meetings. They shared the results from an out-of-district transportation survey. We had about a third of our out-of-district families responding, 71% reporting pretty minimal concerns. We did highlight some communication gaps with difficulty accessing information and plan to do some website updates to ameliorate that. We also talked through some issues in terms of IT support for integrating PowerSchool and Frontline to ensure parents receive necessary information before conferences. Updates on our district goals. We looked mostly at Goal 1, which is college and career readiness. In the world of special services, what that looks like is talking about professional development. Our New Jersey Department of Ed monitor had small group CST sessions where they focused on IEP compliance. We also will be hosting training from Dr. Ross Green's company, which will focus on building leaders and MTSS teams in February, focusing on collaborative problem solving for student behavioral needs. We also talked through K through 5 ICS proposed changes. Ms. Bodner joined to share some insight on those proposed changes from her lens, emphasizing collaboration between our curriculum and instruction and special services team. We had a robust discussion about logistics, implementation, staffing models, support, training, and communication. Next steps included continued updates, discussions, and a clear presentation to be shared with the board and community. We also talked through paraprofessional data and utilization and reviewed 4 regulations. Additionally, Ms. Jessa Maria announced the official opening of our new ERI classroom, which is an exciting development in terms of expanding student support and services in our district. Our next committee meeting is February 13th, and I open the floor to colleagues for any questions. All right, seeing none, I will pass it on. Thank you.
Should I go twice? Because I got 2 committee ones to go for.
Yeah.
Is that all right? All right. You get to hear me twice in a row. So I'll be reading the personal committee readout for Regina Eckert, who's not here today. The Personnel Committee met on Monday, January 27th at 6:30 p.m. All committee members were present. Board members Capadia, that's myself, Gifford, Sackett Gable, and Committee Chair Eckert, along with Dr. Gilbert, Mr. Adedoyan, Ms. Durant, and Mr. Bing. Much of which was discussed is confidential. However, you can read the public-facing minutes out on the district District website. Among the topics discussed in committee were 5-year workforce diversity plan and the year 1 progress. HR has established a new launch date for the teacher staff survey and is working on an internal communication plan. There was topics of staff evaluations, discussion around supports given to the administrators to ensure they are pacing to hit specified deadlines. Group effort between CNI and HR with support in holding staff accountable. SLT is also going to be helping out and monitoring. Mr. Bing will also be shadowing. 2025-26 budget updates. HR is working with the business office looking at position control rosters, although they have not begun discussions on individual positions just yet. We'll have more to discuss at the next committee meeting. Business office consultant on that topic. Mr. Bing discussed bringing on a consultant to accelerate the current business office budget audit. We reviewed 6 policies for first read. The public-facing minutes include specifics to the requested edits. Policy 9181, volunteer athletic coaches. Policy 9180, school volunteers. Policy 2431.1, athletic department and coaches. 4217, use of corporal punishment, support staff. 3216.1, identification badges for the teaching staff. 4216.1 for identification badges and support staff. Nothing of note other than some feedback for the district on the regulation for 9180 school volunteers. The next committee meeting will be Monday, February 24th at 6:30 p.m. Any questions, comments? All right, part 2. Yeah, municipal partners readout. So this one is, this was the first time we met in January 25. I will do this probably on occasion as there's substantive updates, but for since it was the first one of the new year, I'll give the update here. We met on January 27th at 1 p.m. with all members present, including Board President Nubia Duval-Wilson, Board Member Bimal Kapadia, Superintendent Mr. Bing, Mayor Sheena Collum, Village Trustee Dr. Livia Lewis-Chang, Mayor Nancy Adams, Town Council Deb Engel, Business Administrator Pat Wary. This was the first meeting of the new year with plenty of new faces. I already said that, never mind, we move on. 3 areas of note from Monday's meeting. The meeting agenda was actually changed at the last minute because of the unfortunate incident over at Oheb Shalom. We spent most of the meeting discussing the incident over that previous weekend, where the town was with regards to the investigation, the response, and the communication with the public. I would say of the most tangible outcomes there in particular was Mr. Bing will expand the invite list to his interfaith quarterly meeting to include more leaders in the community. That is scheduled for February 4th, I think. The other item of note here was Mr. Sanchez brought up the prom and election day overlap on the date of June 10th. Primary elections are being held at CHS, which is also the same day as the prom. Both dates cannot move. So basically for some background, CHS inherited the election polling site after Clinton stopped because of the construction. So we're looking to see if the election polling site can move. But at minimum, the district and the town need to coordinate road closures and logistics as we plan for the prom and elections to overlap. So that conversation will be ongoing. One of the requests that came from the township was data requests on school placements, given the III, and a lot of geographical placements. The township is requesting this geographical data as it relates to school placements to plan for bus routes, crossing guard placements, pedestrian traffic patterns, and the district has been in coordination with the police about the traffic and will include town council reps into those meetings to ensure cooperation and information sharing. The next committee meeting will be Monday, February 24th at 1 p.m. Any questions, comments? All right.
The FFT committee met on January 26th with board members Meyer, Callahan, and Bennett, and myself in attendance. We received 2 presentations. Proposal for middle school athletics. Ms. Wenstead, Director of Athletics, provided us with a thorough and timely presentation of needs and objectives for implementation of middle school interscholastic athletics program. This program would serve us well to develop earlier aptitude, essentially creating a feeder program that better prepares our student athletes for high school. We also received a presentation for the South Orange Maplewood School District budget philosophy presentation. Our business administrator, Mr. Moody, gave us a draft budget philosophy presentation that expressed the district's strategy for setting goals and priorities. the internal district communication forms, and timing for review and feedback across stakeholder groups. We received a construction update regarding the LRFP. Our architect has conducted interviews with SLT, principals, and facilities. They have concluded in the LRFP all items that were taken out of the original bond, including the carryover projects from the previously submitted LRFP. The architect is estimating full completion and submission of the LRFP to the Department of Education by June. I'm excited to talk about the solar study that that the district is announcing, that they have asked our architect to perform a solar capability assessment to identify facilities that would be ideal candidates for rooftop installation. This would not only benefit our schools in capturing significant savings, but would also increase students' knowledge of renewable technology. There are companies that provide schools with educational materials that teach students about their system's performance, and even go so far as to provide kiosks or websites that students can view how much power their solar array is generating and how that correlates into minimizing our carbon footprint. So that would be pretty cool if we could do that. An update on the auditorium rigging and stage maintenance. Technology Director Mr. Bonds provided history and current status of the rigging challenges across the district. A preliminary assessment shows we'll need $1 million worth of upgrades for MMS, SOMS, and CHS. That said, stages are currently safe for use if rigging systems remain untouched. We will be considering comprehensive repairs in future budgets or bond referendums. Mr. Bonds also updated us on the Power School data breach. He informed the committee about the Power School data and shared that sensitive information, such as personal documents, social security numbers, or financial information, are not contained in Power School, and so would not be at risk of being exposed. That said, Power School will offer 2 years of complimentary identity and credit monitoring services to students and staff impacted by the breach through trusted credit reporting agencies. These are my highlights, but for more details, please go to the district website for a full recap of the meeting in the board committee section. The next meeting will be February 19th, and I open the floor to board members for questions and comments for discussion. Beautiful. Oh, give me a look. Nope, all good.
All right, thank you. The Policy and Governance Committee met on January 8th. Present were myself, board members Bennett, Brown, and Duval Wilson, along with Superintendent Bing, Ms. Jessamaria, and Dr. Gilbert. We have one policy that we discussed at the meeting and has been put up for first read, Policy 4217, Corporal Punishment. This is a policy that is applicable to support staff. This is being brought forward not to make any substantive change to our corporal punishment policy, but sort of as a clerical reason. 2 years ago, Policy 3217, the adjoining policy that addresses teachers, was updated to the newest language by our vendor Strauss-Esme, which mostly mirrors the state statute. 4217 was not updated at that time, so we're doing this today just to get that parity so that there is not a distinction between the two groups as far as how that law is being applied in our district. At our meeting, we had a conversation with representatives from our vendor, Strauss-Esme, that maintains our policy manual and advises us in the changes that we make to our manual and discusses the ways that they can help our district, which is in a number of ways, a lot of services they can provide. We had an update from the administration on what we're calling our regulation catch-up project. We do have a number of policies that require a regulation to go along with them that is currently not there. The administration is diligently working forward, creating those and bringing them forward for adoption, and we expect to have a number of those put in place in the near future. We discussed policies that Board Member Kapadia mentioned on volunteers and athletic volunteers and other volunteers in the school district, as well as athletic coaches, in changes to ensure that the correct and adequate trainings are taking place for all of those personnel with regard to student interactions and student safety, along with background checks for our long-term volunteers. We would anticipate those likely coming up to first read at next month's meeting, along with a newly proposed policy requiring all of our teachers and staff to wear their IDs at all times, which mirrors very well what we're already doing for our secondary students. We had a conversation regarding ongoing board efficiency measures, trying to look at the way we conduct our meetings, especially, and how we can streamline them. Various measures that came up in a survey from last year were discussed, including making adjustments to how we handle the structure of our meeting, which is contained in one of our bylaws, as well as the structure and order of our public speaks. And those discussions remain ongoing into future meetings. Finally, I'll note our meeting was held on January 8th, which was before the change of presidential administrations and feels like about a year ago. And it's before the executive orders that we've all heard about. So I just want to make clear that all of our policies right now, including all the ones that memorialize our values of inclusivity and equity for all of our students, remain fully in place and unaffected. The Policy Committee will be discussing in our next meeting on February 5th all the options we have for safeguarding the protections that we want to have for all of our students and how the board can best respond to future measures that may come down the road. Questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, that means we are now going to the action portion of the meeting.
Thank you, President Duval-Wilson. As action items, I would like to present for consideration resolutions 4711 through resolution 4721 for consideration, discussion, and vote.
Okay. Anyone have any comments? No?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'll highlight just a couple items in here.
Oh, yeah, let me turn it.
Just a couple items that I saw in here, specifically in our financial regulation 4714. I wanted to highlight 4714H is signing our new contract with the YMCA for the valuable before and after care services that the Y provides. I personally am very happy to see that our relationship with the Y continues in good faith and ongoing. And look forward to ways that it can continue to grow to support our kids and our families outside of the school day to make ends meet for all of our families. I want to note 4714I and J relate to donations that the district received from United Methodist Women, Morrow, and the Rent Party Pantry to support our toy drive and the Clinton School Library. It's always great to see donations from the community. And finally, highlighting 4714L, we are voting tonight on bringing in a consultant to assist in the business office, which is part of an ongoing conversation with our new BA and assistant BA to make sure that our business office is in the shape that it needs to be for our ongoing financial and budgetary needs. So it's a pretty modest amount, and we wanted to make sure we're taking this step to actually bring those forward for a resolution in full transparency of use of that consultant.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, well, I'd like to ask for a vote then. Board Member Bennett.
Yes.
Board Member Brown.
Yes.
Board Member Callahan.
Yes.
Board President Duval-Wilson.
Yes.
Board Member Eckert. Board Member Gifford.
Yes.
Board Member Kapatia.
Yes.
Board Member Meyer.
Yes.
And Board Member Saki Gable.
Yes.
All right, thank you. The ayes have it.
Sorry, Bing and I are having a side convo. Okay, thanks, everyone. That concludes the action portion of the meeting, and hearing of individuals, we'll just see if there's anyone who signed up. There's no one online? No? Okay, great. So now moving on to new business. Is there any new business tonight? No? Okay, such an easy night. Okay, great. So then I will now announce our future meetings. The Board of Education will hold a board retreat on Tuesday, February 4th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. to discuss the board's role in curriculum and student achievement, as well as data decision-making. We'll have our NJSBA rep here doing some training for us. And then the board will meet again in public session on Thursday, February 27th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. where action will be taken. And with that, Mr. Moody, I would now like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting on Thursday, January 30th at 9:41 p.m. May I have a second?
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brown. And all in favor? All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Good night.